Okay, it is Tuesday, the 22nd of March, 2022. It is 8 p.m. UK time and 1 p.m. PDT time, I think it is now, Pacific time. And this is a postponed show. Last time we tried to do this, about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, suddenly we had a massive power cut in my road and all the lights went off, all the computers went off, everything was crazy, and obviously we couldn't do the show. So unfortunately, my guest was left sort of trying to fend for herself, doing a little bit of talking, filling in some time, thinking it's possible I might get the electric back on quickly. Unfortunately, it was off for a couple of hours, so we had to postpone. But she's back, and I'm pleased to say we're. Fingers crossed, we're not going to have an electrical power cut this time. So this is Fifi La Roux. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm all right. Like I said, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we don't have a recurrence. I'm hoping it was a one-off. It hasn't happened since, so hopefully that was just a one-off. But thank you for rescheduling. Thank you for fitting us in so that we could redo the show tonight. And I'm looking forward to seeing the music you have, because you were certainly talking about it a little bit last time before the show got cut off. But there we go. So let's start from the beginning. This is what I do with most of my guests. We go right back to the beginning, what's called a sort of origin story. So who was your first sort of influences musically? Was it family? Was it friends, siblings? Who was it specifically?
Yeah, so definitely family. My dad was a musician, um, and my parents met when my dad was playing in a band, and we always had music around the house. He would play, piano and keyboards. He would be playing music around the house. He had friends who were recording artists, who, he would bring me. He had one friend in particular who used to build, guitars and stuff, and he would bring me over there to the studio, and I would, meet people. My mom also loves music, even though she's not a musician herself. So we were always listening to music in the house, all kinds of styles. And so I think that's definitely where I got it. It came from, and also my grandfather was a classical pianist, so it just
Wow.
came down the generations. So that gave me kind of my musical background, I think, and my first appreciation for music was definitely through family.
And what sort of a band was you said played keyboard and guitar. What sort of a band and what sort of music was he playing?
So my dad, he played mostly like rock and roll and blues. I think that particular band, it was at the Century Plaza Hotel here in Los Angeles, and I think they played covers mostly, like they were like the weekly band that played in the bar. That's kind of the you know that level of just kind of a working musician around town. And so, but yeah, mostly rock and roll and blues, which is kind of where I got my appreciation for like soul and R&B, and as well as rock and stuff like that.
Great. I'm just going to say hello to Andy Mills, who just popped in the chat on Facebook. He's someone who was part of Through Music We Live On Facebook group, where I started doing a lot of my streams before I moved over to Twitch. But yeah, big shout out to him and thanks for the opportunities. Great. Okay, so you said your mum was into music, but not a musician. So what sort of music was she into?
She listens to, but she liked a lot of pop music. So I would say my tastes for 80s pop music, top 40 from that era probably came from my mom. I remember listening to, cassettes in her car. She also loved like Linda Ronstadt and stuff like that. Like the reason that I love Linda Ronstadt so much is definitely because of my mom, because I remember listening to, the Stone Ponies cassette in her car all the time when, she would like pick me up from school when I was little. But also like Whitney Houston and Paul Simon and all those artists that were really big in kind of the early to mid 80s. I think that definitely came from my mom.
And cassettes, obviously, in the car. Were they also buying vinyl at that time or not?
So my parents, they had, I mean, we had records because at that time, like that's what you listened to.
Yeah.
Um, I used to get vinyl myself. I had a little record player and I would buy records. I was in dance classes since I was 3 years old, doing, ballet and all
Yeah.
those tap jazz, the kind of, little kid starting dance classes, and the studio where I danced was called Al Gilbert Dance Studio in Hollywood. And Al Gilbert, the founder of the studio, was actually famous for releasing his own line of vinyl records that were instructional, like dance instructional records.
Ah,
You'd play the records, so you had to have a record player. You
interesting.
play the records and practice at home to like the Al Gilbert syllabus for tap or ballet. I actually have one. I should have pulled it out. It's down here somewhere, but I actually found one at a record store once. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I used to have. So I had my own record player, and then I actually got 45s of the songs that I liked the most, in the early to mid 80s, which were of course like the popular 80s pop songs of the time. But so I had my own record player, and then my parents had one, and then when CDs came along in the mid 80s, we were one of the first families to get a CD player, and then they started collecting CDs because my dad was all into technology.
Yeah. Well, there's a few things to pick out from that actually. Obviously you met Zizi earlier on, my daughter. She does tap and ballet and dance and all that. And my wife's a dance teacher. But interestingly, I was at I think a charity shop or maybe a record fair, and I came across something very similar to you. It was like an ISTD, so international something to do with ballet, and it was again very similar to what you're talking about, an instructional ballet. 45, which is quite interesting. So there's those sort of quirky things you always need to pick up, because you just never know when they might come in handy for a sort of a little set or chucking it. Great. Well, that's a great little intro. Let's kick it off with a track. So All Back to Mine is as if I was in LA and came to your house and you said, look, I've got these great sevens that you need to hear. Often more, because we keep going, but let's start with your first choice. So if you tell us why you've chosen it, what it is, and then play probably about 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes, something like that.
Sure. So I think I did this the last time I tried this, but since I'm gonna redo that. So I actually pulled out my first record player with my first 45, which I wanted to play on the record player. And as I said a couple weeks ago, the record player, unfortunately, I need a new stylus for it. It just doesn't play right.
Yeah.
One might have thought in those intervening weeks I could have gone out and fixed it and come back like triumphant, like I did it. Now I'm going to nail it, but of course I did not. So
life gets in the way. Other things were more important.
It is this very classic Fisher-Price record player that I think everybody had in the like late 70s and early 80s. It's got this, little built-in speaker. It's got different speeds. You can do 33 or 45. It's, this little tone arm here. Unfortunately, like I said, it doesn't work. And my first 45, which is Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Want to Have Fun, because that was absolutely my favorite song when I was like 5 years old. And so I remember I would listen to that on this all the time at home and dance around in my little room. And, so that's what I'm not going to play that song because everybody knows that song, but I just kind of wanted to show, since we're talking about the origins of our love for music and all that, I wanted to kind of feature that because I think that's, kind of a fun thing to still have.
And I don't know if it's someone Nick's Sunday Cinema Seance. Is that someone you know?
I guess we're both part of the Broken Record Player Club.
Yeah. But thank you for the bits. Thank you very much, Nick. Thank you very much. So, okay. So you're not going to play Cyndi Lauper, Guys Want to Have Fun. I mean, we all know that one, and it is a classic. What are you going to play instead?
So, one thing, I do have a French version of that, but I think I might have put it on a mix already for 45 days. So again, I didn't want to repeat myself. But what I did is pull a bunch of records because you had said before when I made my first 45-day mix, which was all French Canadian cover songs.
Yeah, that was a great mix.
Songs. And so when I was trying to narrow it down to some kind of theme or something that made sense to me for this, because like 745s is just it's
not many. I'd say this on my other show on Part of My Journey. I only let my guests choose 3, so that's even harder. But 7 and then a little bit of a leeway for some bonus ones makes it a tiny bit easier, maybe.
Yeah, a tiny bit, maybe. So I picked a bunch of what I feel are sort of unusual cover songs that most people don't know. So weirdo covers, not just like French or French Canadian or whatever, but just oddball cover songs.
Yeah.
Kind of unexpected ones that I really like. But before I get into those, the first song I wanted to play, and actually when we this is one time where I think it was better that we repeated this, because I did go back and fix something that I really wanted to do when we started last time. I was like, oh no, what this would have been great. So this 45 is by the Fifth Dimension, and it is the A side is You're the Reason I Feel Like Dancing, and the B side is this song called Slipping Into Something New, which was written by my dad.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
So I wanted to kind of, since he was the one that really taught me my love for music and my love for soul music, and I wanted to play this. This is obviously a 45 that's very special to me. And so that's going to be my first one. And then after that, I'll move into my oddball cover songs that I
Okay,
picked
great.
out. But this one will be our first. So let me know whenever you're ready. I can start it.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right.
Sunshiny, opening ways for love to be. We're reason through our lives right now. I don't know why and I don't know how. You might not recognize my style. I even change the way I smile. When the picture is complete, we'll find a transformation blessed by time. Slipping into something new. The world's not like it used to be. I feel myself gradually slipping into something new. I see you so differently, a different view of a different me. Traveling a road that never ends. Follow my heart goes by the wind.
All right, so that was the Fifth Dimension, Slipping Into Something New, written by my father, Dennis Hardy. Oh wait, I can't hear the sound here.
Sorry, yeah. I was going to say a great track, and I think it's the first on this show certainly where someone's played a record that their parent or someone related to them had a part in. So that was great.
Oh, awesome.
Hopefully we've got the sound back. I'm going to say hello to a few people in the chat. We got Cut Class, we got Mr. Musto, Nick Sunday, Cinema Seance. Yes, you probably saw us through Sweet Tooth, who was meant to be on the show last week but couldn't because of some issues at his end. But he's coming back on in May. But yeah, a brilliant track to start with. So was your dad playing, I think you said about piano and guitar, or keyboard and guitar. Is that what he was playing on there, or did he just write the song?
So that one, he just wrote the song. He didn't. I don't think he played on that recording, but that was a song he wrote. He had a songwriting partner, and they would write songs. And I think that's one of the ones that did the best for them in the 70s.
And I was going to say, how big a career did he have of that? Was that a one-off, or did he have a few singles that came out?
That was a bit of a one-off. I mean, he did work on other things, but that not too, like if you look him up on Discogs, I think that's the only one that appears there. Although I know he kind of sat in with, recorded with some other people or wrote some other songs that he may not have been credited for. He was just a kind of musician around town, like a lot of the people I'm friends with now, just like hanging around in LA, playing local shows and working with people who went on to become more famous, or that kind of thing. But that one is the one that I have on 40. Actually, that's not true. I do have a couple test pressings of a different song that he wrote, but I don't know where theirs are at the moment.
No. Well, too many records. Sometimes when you need to find something, it's very difficult. I have that problem sometimes. Cool. Okay, so that's the sort of musical background. So how did that progress to you becoming a DJ? Were you a musician at all before that, or did you move straight into sort of DJing?
Yeah, no, I was never a musician. I focused when I was younger until through high school. I was very, very, very dedicated to dance, and that kind of took up all my time. So I never took music lessons or learned to play an instrument. I wish that I had. I always thought, "Oh, my dad can teach me if if I wanna." He did teach me a little bit of piano, so that I guess it's not strictly true to say that I don't play because I do. I can play, like, keyboards a little bit, but I never got serious about it because I was so into dance. And then when I went to college, I had sort of decided that dance wasn't something that I wanted to keep doing, as I got older. And one of the first things I did when I got to college was sign up to be a DJ on the college radio station because I was like, oh, that's the activity for me. I love music. I'd gotten into, like, I was very into, by that point, like goth music, and, music was already kind of a lifestyle for me, as far as just collecting music and being into, certain genres of music and obscure music, especially, I went to high school in the 90s. So you had to really dig for stuff. It wasn't like you could just, pull up anything on Spotify or whatever. You had to kind of work at it to know more than just what was on the radio.
It's a very different world, isn't it? Now that you can just put into Spotify or go there. I mean, I think I was thinking about this the other day about how I used to get music, and I think it was through magazines. You'd sort of read magazines, and there'd be articles, and they'd say, "Oh, this band's putting this album out, or this artist is doing this," and then you'd have a release date, and then you'd go down to the record shop on the day. I'd do this. I'd go on a Monday because there'd always be release days, and then you'd buy that. But that seemed to be, pre-internet, pre-social media, that that's the only way you could sort of find new music, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I would buy, magazines, or one of my formative experiences was, when I was younger, when I was like maybe 8 or 9. I was a latchkey kid, so I, would come home by myself from school.
Yeah.
I'd walk home and then be by myself at home for a few hours before my parents got home from work, and I would just park myself in front of the TV and watch MTV for however many hours it took for my parents to get
Yeah.
home.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there after school watching MTV as I always did, and it was like world premiere video. They, back when they used to play videos, they would do that, like world
Yeah.
premiere. And it was, we have the world premiere video of The Cure's new song, Love Song, from their brand new album, Disintegration. I was like, what's The Cure? I'm 9. I don't know. And but I was already kind of like veering into this sort of like gothy phase. Even at the time, I was like obsessed with the movie The Breakfast Club, and I wanted to be like
Classic.
in The Breakfast Club, like pre-makeover, and I would always wear all these like layers of black clothes, which was funny because we lived like in the desert where it was like 100 degrees, and I would, be like layering like black sweaters on top of black dresses on top of black pants and wearing like a beanie hat. And so but I had never seen, music that kind of reflected that kind of look and feel and sound. And then when I saw that video for The Cure's Love Song, where they're in the cave and it's like so, dark and gothy, and Robert Smith is like peak handsome Robert Smith with all his makeup and his crazy hair. And I was just like, it just blew my mind. I was like, this is what I want music to sound like and to look like. I was 9, so I didn't know what post-punk was before that time.
Yeah.
But that was it. And I remember around the same time, maybe a few months later, that was also like Depeche Mode came out with Violator, and that was all over MTV as well. And those kind of 2 albums, just that was it. And then I kind of started going down that path and, got super into, as I got older, and did more work and, went to record stores, or I would, this was a little dorky, but when I got into high school and I was like a freshman in high school and I was not very cool. I mean, I'm sure my mom thought I was cool, but I wasn't, I wasn't what you would call cool in sort of
Yeah.
an objective way. But I would look at like the seniors, the cool older kids, like the goth kids at my high school, and like make notes of like the t-shirts. Like I remember one kid had this Bauhaus t-shirt, and I was like, well,
All right. Yeah.
Bauhaus is, but I'm going to write that down and go to my like local, warehouse music and look for Bauhaus, because apparently that's what the cool kids listen to.
So you're getting music off the back of other people's t-shirts. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's one way to do it. Or my one of my best friends at the time when I was in junior high had a cool older sister that introduced me to like Nine Inch Nails and the stuff that she was listening to. That she would drive us around in her car and have those like cassettes in her car, like Nine Inch Nails and, other kind of like industrial or goth or, sort of like alt rock bands at the time. And then I would, go buy those things too. Like, okay, well, this is what's cool now.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Right, I'm going to pick up on one thing, and we'll get you to play the next tune. It's interesting that you're talking about The Cure and Robert Smith again, because we had DJ Robert Smith on last week on Part of My Journey, who's a German turntablist, and he was telling us all about how he went out for an evening, met a girl, and he had to go and see his friend, and basically turned up and his hair was all over the place, and the guy said, "You look like Robert Smith." He was like, "Who's Robert Smith?" He'd never heard of The Cure in Germany, and then went away, and then since then, he loved The Cure and has adopted the name, a very sort of British name for a German DJ. But no, it's cool that 2 weeks in a row we're talking about The Cure. I'm just going to say hello to a couple of people. We've got Mitz Lion there, and we've got Scotty Boy, we've got Double P's in the house as well. But so what's your second track?
So my second track, to kind of bring it back around, not going to play The Cure, although I do have that 45 too. But again, those are songs that everybody's heard. So I do want to kind of like make a little bit of a turn and veer into something that's maybe, new to people who are tuned in. So this one is, I said I wasn't going to do all French Canadian covers because I already did that. But for the first one, I did want to go back to a French Canadian cover song, because this is one, I don't believe I put it on the mix that I did. But either way, it's one of my absolute favorites. It is a cover song. So there's a few versions of it, actually. So the original song is the Bob Crew generation, Music to Watch Girls By.
Yeah.
And then there's a French version as well, which I think, here it is. So there's a French version by an artist called Natasha Snitkin called Le Jeu du Téléphone, or The Telephone Game, and it's got a really, really cute cover. I don't know if you can see it, but it's her.
Let me make you
Siamese
try and get you
cat
on
here.
solo.
Yeah, so you can see
that's a great cover.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces of artwork on a 45 that I have. But it's similar to the Bob Crew generation. It's a little bit more loungy, a little bit more like do 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 do. But then there's a Canadian version by this artist named Caroline. And it's also Le Jeu du Téléphone, so it's the same lyrics as the French version about the telephone game, but it's way more kind of hard hitting. It's got that cool, like that French Canadian, that unique kind of just like garagey. I think a little bit more of a banger, as the 60s Canadians often were at that time. So that's what I wanted to start out with, because it's just one of my favorite 45s that I have, and one of my favorite ones to play as a DJ. It's such a great version of this song. So that's where I'm starting here.
Perfect. Let's do it.
All right.
Les garçons et les filles, on pense que chahuter, c'est normal, car on se réunit pour s'amuser. On joue à un jeu qui n'est pas compliqué, le jeu du téléphone. Il suffit d'appeler dans la nuit quelques amis. Bonsoir, c'est moi, devine qui je suis. Tu ne sais pas, mais voyons réfléchir. Et l'on invente des histoires, on raconte, puis le blague, ça n'a pas d'importance. On s'amuse en restant dans le bac quand on questionne. On appelle ça jeu du téléphone.
That's that's a brilliant cover, and I love one of the things that stood out is when you did the 45-day mix is all these songs I know, or some of them that I know, but obviously hearing them in the French language, and obviously a completely different versions, and that's so good. That's so good, that one.
Thank you.
That's so great. Okay, so I think we got up to you going to college and signing up to be a college radio DJ. So prior to that, had you had any experience, or did you think, why not? I like music. Let's just do it. Did you have any training before?
No, not at all. I mean, obviously, I owned a record player, but I had no training in DJing or using a mixing board or anything like that, other than maybe observing. Uh, oh, actually, just to answer the question in the chat real quick, the original version is actually an instrumental. There may be an English version with vocals I'm not familiar with, but the Bob Crew generation, the original one, is just a kind of loungy instrumental track. But yeah,
I'm trying to think. Yeah, there is. There's obviously a couple of versions. I'm trying to think if there is a male version. It might come back to me, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah, there might be. I can't think of it right now, but we can.
Andy Williams. Here we go.
There
Andy
you go.
Williams.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Scotty boy knows. He's old enough to know.
Yeah.
I can say that because he's my mate.
So when I got to college, I had no experience as a DJ. I was only like marginally familiar with DJing at all. I mean, obviously I listened to a lot of the radio. And I had just started because it was at the same time that I turned 18, started going to like goth clubs and stuff and seeing the DJs up there. And so I was starting to get the concept of what DJing was, but I really had no experience. I just thought, oh, this looks like the scene for me. This is the people that, these are the people that I feel like I could be friends with. And this is my activity here in college is being in the radio station. So, so I went, they did a DJ training for, incoming DJs where they taught you how to use the mixing board and how to do all that. And so I went through training, and then I kind of got lazy and flaked and didn't actually I went through all the DJ training when I first got there, and then I took me about 2 years to actually get a show, because then you had to do all these things to apply for a show and come up with a audition.
Okay, all right. So you had to work your way in and show them that you had some sort of theme or some sort of collection. And I'll carry on in a second. But are we talking vinyl, or was this by this point cassettes, or were you onto CDs by this stage?
It was both. So the station had a large vinyl library as well as a large CD library at that point, because this was in the late 90s. And so when you first start at the station, they wanted you to use the radio station's library, not bring your own music.
Yeah, of course.
And so I was playing both the vinyl from the vinyl library as well as CDs, like the new releases and stuff like that, where a lot of them were CDs, although not all, especially at the time, like punk bands and Riot Girl bands and stuff were releasing a lot of 7-inches. So I would play those as well. But I wasn't playing for my own collection at first. And, but yeah, I could have gotten a show when I started. I was just procrastinating. You get wrapped up. I got super into going to those goth clubs that I mentioned and was staying out all night doing that, and kind of like, school, whatever.
Yeah. Enjoying life, like most people going to college and university do. That's great. Okay, so let's keep the music rolling for a minute, and then we'll come back to some of that. What's your third 45 that you've got today?
So I've got slightly disorganized here, but here we go. Okay, so my third track is, now we're going to veer towards, as we're talking about college radio and just things that are kind of bizarro. And that's one of my favorite things about joining the station and getting into college radio, is you really do learn, just all kinds of weirdo music that, I mean, everybody who had the college radio experience, I think, can relate. I see a couple of oh, yes, I agree kind of messages in the chat, because it's, the weirder the music, the better it is, on college radio. And I just loved kind of exploring that. So the next one I'm going to play is definitely kind of in that vein. It is a band called Sun Yama, who, as far as I can tell, only released this 145. It's one of my favorite kind of weirdo post-punk records. They are from England. I believe it looks like they're from Leeds. And this is a cover of Bob Dylan's Subterranean Homesick Blues. But it's a very oddball post-punky cover. I like to play it. I play it at bars sometimes, and people are like, wait, is this Bob? What is this? Which I love. And that's kind of the experience you have as a college radio DJ, where you play something on the radio and you're like, what is that? And people start calling, and that's, so I'm going to relate that there, but that's what this is. It is Sun Yama doing Bob Dylan's Subterranean Homesick Blues.
Let's hear it.
Mixing up the medicine. I'm on the pavement thinking about the government. The man in the trench coat, out laid off, says he's got a bad car, wants to get paid off. Look out, kid, it's something you did. God knows when, but you're doing it again. You better duck down the alleyway, looking for a new friend. The man in the coonskin cap and a big pen wants $11 bills. You only got 10. Comes Fleetfoot, face full of black suit, talking at the heat foot, plants in the bed bug. Phone's down anyway, Maggie says and Betty say, they must bust in early May. Orders from the DA. Look out, kid, don't matter what you did, walk on your tiptoes, don't try no dose. Better stay away from those. They carry around a fire hose, keep a clean nose, wash your plain clothes. You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. I'll get sick, get well, hang around the ink well, ring bell, hotel, benefits, call sell, try hard, get by, get back, right bell, get jail, jump bell, join you on the hippie bell. Look out, kid, you're gonna get hit. Losers, cheaters, six-time users, hanging around the theaters, doing my real cool, looking for a new fool. Don't focus, watch the parking meters.
That's a great cover. And yeah, like you say, it's when you drop it and people's ears prick up and they're like, what is this? What is this? And, like you say, they come running over to the decks or come, get in touch and say, what was that track you played? That's a lot of what this is all about, isn't it? Anyone can just play the same genres or the same type of music or the same, top 20 or whatever, but it's finding these sort of little unique gems that not many other people will have heard before, and that's the key to it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think doing college radio really gave me appreciation for that. And just digging and finding these obscurities, and so I give a lot of credit to which is actually the same radio station where I have my radio shows now on KSPC. I'm just one of those people that never left. Now it's been like 5 years.
I mean, let's talk about college radio, because I don't think it's quite the same here in the UK. I just can't remember that there was a radio station that I ever listened to when I was at university, or that I'm sure there was. I'm sure so in some form, but it sounds very much like college radio is a really big thing in the US. Is that right?
I mean, it certainly was in the 90s and 2000s. Nowadays, because of, streaming and stuff like that, I think all radio has sort of taken a hit. Although, I still listen to anything. I think anyone who wants to hear something besides the top 40 or whatever, 5 songs get played on the radio nowadays, will tune into college radio. At least here, college radio stations are always what they call like on the left-hand side of the dial. So the lower numbers like 88.5, 88.7, 88.9.
Okay.
That side of that's all reserved in the US for college and community and public radio. And so you just tune your radio to the left of the dial, and you can usually find something more interesting than what's on the other side, which is all the, corporate radio and stuff like that. But definitely, I mean, in the 90s, that was, again, like, you didn't have the internet, or at least not in the form that it is today. So one of the best ways to find things was to listen to college radio. If you wanted to find something different, you'd listen to college radio, or sometimes the late night shows on the corporate radio stations. Like here in LA, we have the station K-Rock, which now is just a corporate behemoth, owned by the same company that owns every other radio station. But at the time was, more of an alternative station. And that's where I, heard a lot of the music that I still like today. And there's a DJ whose name is Rodney Bingenheimer. There's a kind of sad documentary about him you can watch called, oh boy, what's it called? The King of Hollywood or something like that. No, the King of the Sunset Strip. Anyway, but he, for a very, very long time, had a really, really late night show on K-Rock on Sunday nights. And he would just play the, basically what you'd hear on college radio, like the weirdest music. And, I would sneak, past my bedtime, like sneak the radio on in my bedroom really low so I could listen to it when I was supposed to be sleeping and getting ready for school the next day. But yeah, it's a huge thing. And I think, in a lot of ways it still is, not just for listeners, but also for people who get involved in it. to teach people about DJing, to teach people about curating music and the history of music. And yeah, exactly, just like John Peel used to do in the UK.
Yeah. There's I think it's I was reading an article about his son has just opened up the Peel Manors, where they've got all the, I think it's Peel Manors, where they've got all the records that he owned, and he's starting to do, I think, podcasts as well. And yeah, I mean, John Peel, amazing, rest in peace, an amazing DJ and broadcaster. Some of the music that he produced and put forward was just incredible. And yeah, amazing reputation. Cool. Well, you said that you're still at the radio station. So let's talk about that. So when is your show? What does it feature, and how often is it on?
Sure. Actually, it's The Mayor of the Sunset Strip is what that documentary is called. Highly recommend. It's a little bit sad and bittersweet, but a really very good portrait of just what the LA kind of alt rock scene was at that time, and this figure in it. If you want to know a little bit about the music scene in LA, that's a really good documentary to watch. But anyway, my radio. So I actually have 2 radio shows right now. The one that I've been doing for years and years is called Le Show, where I play French music every week. It is, yes, the Mayor of the Sunset Strip. You got it. It is, so my radio show called Le Show. It's on KSPC, which is 88.7 if you're in the LA area, or if you're not, you can tune in at kspc.org. And it also gets archived. So if you, for example, are in the UK and my show is at 5 p.m. California time, which is
2-3 a.m.
in
the morning.
Yeah, very, very early in the morning or late at night, depending. You can listen to the archive later on. And that's at spinatron.com/KSPC, which I put on my Instagram and stuff like that if you need the link. But anyway, so once a week, Saturdays at 5 p.m. California time, I do this French radio show for 2 hours of all French music, all eras, all genres, from early on, like Edith Piaf and Josephine Baker, through the 60s, like Françoise Hardy and France Gall and Jacques Dutronc and Serge Gainsbourg, and all the way up through the 80s, like Indochine and Leo and all the the fun 80s stuff, and then modern French music as well. So I try, especially underground French music, I try and keep the, oh hey, DJ Linda Carina,
welcome.
Yes, welcome. Oh, thank you so much for tuning in. She is great, by the way. She's also a wonderful collector of French records and does a French club called Club Mini Jupe, and used to be based in LA, but is now based in London, I believe. So maybe one day we can all DJ together. That would be fun.
Yeah. Come to London one day. That's not too far from me. Yeah.
Now that things have opened up again, I would love to.
It's possible, yeah.
So I do that show, and that show I've been doing for, I think I switched to like completely French format in like 2012, 2013-ish. I was doing sort of a free form show before that. And then I did one show where I played all French music, just, kind of on a lark. I was like, oh, I speak French. I like French music. Let me just do a whole show in French. Because I would pick a different theme every day for that show. And then it went so well. I was like, what, why don't I just do this? Weirdly, there was nobody on the radio at that time in LA, or really mostly anywhere that I knew of, doing that, on like a college radio sort of obscure. I mean, obviously there's radio shows in France that play French music, but
of course,
like kind of stuff, not something like this where it was somebody curating like old records and doing it sort of from a historical perspective. And so that's when I started doing that. So now it's been almost about 10 years that I've done that every week.
Wow, that's amazing.
I still have not gotten bored and still have not run out of things to find. Night Flight. I love Night Flight. Somebody mentioned Night Flight in the chat. And, that's a great one. And then I also every other week do a like a goth post-punk industrial show called Atrocity Exhibition, where I play kind of the music of my teenage years, as well as newer stuff. I've been playing a lot of new like post-punk bands and stuff like that recently, just because there's so many people doing that, and a lot of it's really good right now. So I've been kind of enjoying exploring new music, which is sort of new for me because I spend so much time collecting vintage
old music.
Yeah, like I
Right.
think everybody who does this probably has the same problem where you kind of like it's hard to keep up with new music because you're so down the rabbit hole of like, let me find this obscure record
Yep.
from 1967 that I must have, and you stop paying attention to what's happening now.
Yeah, 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 it's a strange. I mean, with the 45s, it's obviously you go digging for older stuff, and I think each DJ's got their own little subgenres that they sort of like. I mean, I like my funk, my hip hop, my reggae, Latin, and all that sort of stuff, and weird stuff as well. But then obviously, yeah, like you say, it's difficult to keep up with new stuff, and a lot of it doesn't come out on 45, or the stuff that does come out is edits, and there's amazing, loads of great music.
Yeah.
We'll come back to a couple of those points in a minute, but move on to number 4. I think I always lose count on these shows, but I think it's number 4.
Sure. So let's see. So for number 4, this one's also a little bit of it's something again that I think is would be at home on alternative radio, as we were just talking about.
Yeah.
I'm trying to relate these to what we're saying, so it's not too much of a hard left turn. So this is actually a record that I picked up recently at a record store where I work kind of occasionally part-time, called Record Safari, if you're in the LA area.
Okay.
And Water Village, which is also where I live. Come to Record Safari, best selection of vinyl records in LA. But this is Nico of Nico Velvet Underground fame doing a cover of David Bowie's Heroes.
Oh wow. I'm looking forward to this.
This was a great find. This is something I was really, really, really excited to pick up, and it's a record that's a little bit newer to me, so I like that too. So are we ready? Should I start this one?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
I will be king, and you will be queen. Though nothing will drive them away, we can be heroes just for one day. We can be heroes just for one day. You can't be mean, and I drink all the time, 'cause we're lovers, and that is the fact. Yes, we're lovers, and that is fact. Though nothing will keep us together, we could steal time just for one day. We can be heroes forever and ever. What you say?
Amazing. That's an amazing cover. That's brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah.
Scotty Boy likes it. He's photographed from I want to say the 70s, I think, dressed as David Bowie, I believe, or certainly of that ilk, and he's been in a book recently that's just about to be released. So yeah, and I'm going to say this right, Mittelion, I might say it wrong, is going to go 45 shopping, and yeah, it's
Well, that makes me happy. I remember when I did one of the 45-day Twitch streams, and somebody
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
"Oh, I gotta get this. What is this? I was like, oh, I win. It's so good.
That's we get. I mean, I think certainly so the people who are from the 45 Kings community, so at the beginning of Twitch, it was like, I was doing this pretty much everything that came on. But it's nice, obviously, bringing DJs in who aren't perhaps on the community or aren't on Twitch much, because I know you've streamed, but not a huge amount on Twitch. So obviously for a lot of people, it was the first time seeing you, and obviously hearing the music that is quite different to some of the other sets they've seen. And straight away, it's like, yeah, need to go and find that. Another one's Frauling Freakbeat, who was on a couple of weeks ago from Germany, and again,
I love her.
her record collection's insane.
YouTube.
Yeah, and Jawad Jones as well. We've got
Yes.
a meeting. She's coming to our event in London on Sunday, so she's going to DJ at that, so we're going to get to see her. And then she's also in Edinburgh the following week when I'm DJing with Scotty Boy. So yeah, it's great meeting these people in real life. And obviously, like I said, if you come to London, hopefully we can sort of meet up and do some sort of event. It's going to be great.
Oh, I would love I wish I could come this weekend.
Yeah,
definitely. Now that things are opening up in the world again, and it's a little easier to travel. Hopefully, we'll stay that way. Fingers crossed. I know things are already.
Yeah, well, I mean, for us, like we were saying, sort of just before, this is the start, and obviously, we've done a lot of streams, and now, built up a network, and obviously we know where people are and things are happening. So, the thing in Edinburgh, we're doing one in April, and then we're doing one in July, and then hopefully, if it goes well, it'll be a regular thing. So, yeah, we can work something out further down the line. Okay, God, I've forgotten what I was going to say there. So we get to college radio. In terms of DJing, then, when did you first start DJing out? What clubs were you playing at, and how did you find it when you first started?
Sure. And by the way, I apologize for the doggy noises. I have a 5-month-old puppy and a 15-year-old dog, and she's constantly trying to get him to play with her and barking and chasing him around. So I apologize for a little bit of dog chaos.
We met Margot earlier, didn't you? You showed her to Zizi before the show.
You're nibbling at my fingertips. So DJing out and clubs and parties and stuff like that. So for the first several years, I only did radio. I did do in college a couple of parties and stuff, just like college things, not like, real clubs, but just, like dorm parties and that kind of thing where I would DJ, which I think kind of helped me get, into it in a low pressure situation. So I did that. And then I think the first club that I really did was Decadence Soiree, which is the club that I'm doing now. I had done before that just like some smaller things here and there, like restaurants and bars, here, like guesting with one person, but I wasn't all that serious about it for, I would kind of do it here and there. I always thought it was fun, but I think it wasn't until my friend Mark, who also was somebody that I knew from the college radio station, and we had gone to college together. He started this club called Decadence Soirée, where it was all French music, but as a nightclub, around the same time that I had started doing it as a radio show. And he got in touch with me and he was like, I just started this club night. And I've heard your radio show. It's great. Like, why don't you come to my club and check it out? Maybe we could have you as a guest DJ. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. Great minds. Like, how cool that we just started, kind of along this same path. And so I went first as just as a guest, and it was so cool. And also there was a lot of people there that were familiar with my radio show, that were listeners. And I kind of felt like a little bit of a celebrity, like shaking hands and meeting.
Brilliant.
And it was also just so cool to be at home with these people that just loved this genre that at this point I had become very obsessed with. Once I really got into it and I started going down the rabbit hole and doing research, and like, wow, there's, I obviously, as I started the show, I had some knowledge of French music and kind of knew what I liked. But, once I really kind of started digging in, this whole world opened up, and to see that there was this community of people in LA that were into that wanted to come and dance, live. That was, and that, like I said, I never really done like a dance club before that. I had done, like bars and restaurants or dorm parties or those kind of things where, people would dance, but it's not the same as like a club where that's what people have come to do, and it's on you to keep it going. But I loved it, and I took to it immediately, and it was great. And so that Mark started Decadence Soirée, in I believe 2011, and we made it I signed on as kind of a guest DJ in like 2014, 2015, and then we made it a monthly night, a permanent monthly night at the end of 2015. And it's been going, well, other than the pandemic where we obviously had to take a little break, it's been going every month since then. And then once I did that, then the world opened up, and then there were other, opportunities, and I started meeting more people who were also DJs in LA, and venue owners and bar owners were like, oh, you want to come, do this thing, because everybody knows this club, in LA. It's a unique thing, and so you get a reputation, and it's fun, and people come and have a great time. And it's like, oh, okay, like you people, like, what you're doing. Can we have you do this event or that event? And then it just kind of snowballs from there.
I mean, I haven't been to LA. My friend lives in Santa Monica, and one day I'll be coming out. Obviously, we were planning to before the pandemic. I mean, is it a big city with a sort of small center where people sort of convene, or is it quite spread out?
Well, it's both. I was born in Santa Monica, by the way, but I live kind of on the east side now. But in LA is a huge spread out city, but within that, especially like up here in sort of the east side, like downtown-y area, there's a lot of like a big community of vinyl DJs, a lot of people who play 45s, and we all kind of know each other and work together. And there's a lot of people that like to come out and dance and go to these nights. There's a lot of really cool bars in LA where they have, definitely spread out is DJ Lee DeCarino, who's an LA native, knows this. Yeah. I mean, Santa Monica, which you mentioned, is, could take you 2 hours to drive there from where I live. And it's not even that far.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a big country. It's a very big country.
Hold on. Let me grab this puppy for a second, because she's getting a little distracting.
Don't worry.
All right.
She can join the show. We had a special guest last week. we had Sneaky Finger Thing on the show last week, so we've got another special guest.
Yes, this is Margot. She's 5 months old. She's a rescue, and she's teething, so she's going to chew on my finger while I talk. But yeah, so LA is super super spread out, but within there's also like a great music scene and music community and DJ community. And there's, like I said, a lot of great bars that have turntables and want vinyl DJs and people who want to hear more than just, techno or house music or top 40. I mean,
yeah,
I think as in many cities, it depends on where you go. So if you want to go party in Hollywood, you're going to hear like house music and, that. But if you want to go party in Silver Lake or, somewhere around there, or somewhere that's like a little bit quieter, you might hear, French pop night, or like my other monthly night that I do called Rouge Rouge, which is myself and DJ Annalisa, who's a really good friend of mine. And, two female DJs playing a lot of, we play all 45s, a lot of female fronted music. And it's at this bar called Footsie's Bar, right near me in Cypress Park. And it's just such a cool space to hang out. They've got a dance floor too, but it's generally like more of a mellow vibe. It's like your neighborhood dive bar where people are just playing great music. There's a lot of right now people opening bars in LA that are sort of modeled after the Japanese vinyl bars that you see like a lot of times in Japan.
Right. Okay.
So people are opening these kind of high-end cocktail bars with like a bunch of vinyl behind the bar and turntable DJs. There's actually one called Gold Line that just opened in Highland Park a couple years ago that is actually modeled after the Japanese style. And when you DJ there, they have you only use the records at the bar. You can't bring your own records.
Okay.
And there's
good though. I think there's one in Melbourne, Mr. Lob, who's the co-founder of the 45 Kings, he's just done a new venue, and it looked like they'd specifically put the decks are all, it's all really wooden paneling and amazing records, and I mean, vinyl is making a massive resurgence, so it's nice to see it back out. And also I think it's nice that you've got the opportunity where you can go to a venue and I assume decks and mixer and everything's there. So you literally just turn up with your records. It's a little bit more haphazard here in the UK. There's some places are pubs and they just get DJs in who have to bring all your decks and everything in and just sort of set up in the corner, and the sound's never quite right. But it's it sounds like I need to visit some of those places when I come over. It sounds great.
That is one of the nicest things about LA is I've almost never have to bring turntables or a mixer or any kind of equipment, just my records, my needles, and my headphones.
Little
Um,
record box, and
yeah,
you're away.
my little 45 box, which is nice because I've got, some back issues. I'm not, the Incredible Hulk here. Like, I hate carrying all that equipment, and they never, they don't pay you enough to do that. I don't know what enough is.
No.
It's never enough.
It's never enough, no, because it's the setup and then the checking it and then the DJing and then packing down and then traveling. Yeah, it's never
Yeah.
enough. It's never enough. But yeah, so I hope, it's much easier when you just turn up with your records.
Yes. I can always do that here in LA, which is great. Like I said, there's so many venues that have that set up that, it's all ready to go. The sound set up, the turntables are set up. They've got a house system that's great. I don't, some people are finicky about that. Like, well, yeah, they have a house, equipment, but I've got to bring my own mixer because but it's all that you don't have to do that here, at least not in a lot of the places that I play, which I'm very grateful for.
Well, I guess it's also that the style of DJing as well. There's selectors who are literally playing one track after another, and then obviously you've got the turntablists, and you've got everything sort of in between, and especially playing 45s. Really, I imagine you let them breathe, and you let them play the full. Well, it's only 3 minutes, isn't it? You let them play the 3 minutes, and then you do the next one. So you don't actually need anything particularly fancy in terms of a mixer, unless you're doing any sort of tricks or echoing or any of that sort of stuff. But that's great. Right, let's have another track. I think number 5.
Sure. I wish I could say that I beat match 45s. There is, I'll give a shout out to, there's a club in LA that's been going on for a really long time called Funky Soul. It's all, soul and funk.
Yeah.
And the DJ there is named Miles Tackett, and he's amazing.
Yeah.
And he I've seen him beat match 45s, and he's just an absolute artist. And those skills.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I watch a lot of streams, and I watch a lot of 45s DJs, and yeah, it is amazing. And I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that, and and I'm still sort of learning and sort of crafting. But I think the thing with 45s is the eclecticism of it, and also that you can in a 1 hour set you can go all over the place. Other genres like house DJs, hip hop DJs, drum and bass DJs, they tend to stick to the genres, especially if they're playing digital. But it's one of the things I love about 45s because most sets you don't know necessarily what you're going to get. It could be anything.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's one of the things that I love too. So this is another oddity that gets a lot of attention when I go and play out. This is a band called Exuma. I don't know if any of you are familiar with them. They put out several records in the 70s. They're sort of an Afro-funk band. And this is their covers from 1972 of Paul McCartney and Linda McCartney's Monkberry Moon Delight.
Okay, another interesting one.
Yeah, it is. Another one that's, just kind of maybe not something that you'd expect to hear, but this version is so good and so funky and so different from the original. But again, it's one of those people hear like, wait a second, I know this song. Like, what is this? and it's so good. This is one that I heard on like a mix, like some kind of internet radio station several years ago that was like world music or something. I'm like, what is that? I have to have that on 45. And it's paid off over and over and over again. It's great. So this is the band Exuma. I think they're from the Bahamas. And this is Monkberry Moon Delight by Paul and Linda McCartney.
Great, let's hear it.
Mon père est mort de life. Mon père est mort de life. Mon père est mort de life.
That's another brilliant cover.
Thank you. Yeah, somebody pointed out it sounds a little bit like Tom Waits or Screamin' Jay Hawkins, which I agree.
Yeah.
That's probably why I like it so much because those are two of my favorite artists of all time. My dad actually introduced me to Screamin' Jay Hawkins when I was really little. I was like obsessed with the song "I Put a Spell on You" when I was a kid, and I think that kind of informed my musical taste going forward too. So
Yeah.
I could see why I like this song.
That's a great track. I'll talk to you after about dates and things because we do a thing with Sam Tweaks called 45 Raiders, which is on the last Monday of each month usually, but we're moving up. But we do different themes, and we've done a covers one before. But I know Sam is going to be jealous when he hears a lot of the covers that you've played, and I think it'd be great to sort of have you on the show. But we'll have a look at some dates afterwards and try and get you on a stream to do that because I think that'd be perfect. So where do you buy these records? You know, is it online or have you got amazing local record shops that you can find? Obviously, French music. I think there might be the odd track if I went to a local record shop here, but I don't think I'd be able to build a collection very easily.
Yeah, so there are amazing local record stores. Like I mentioned, one of them, Record Safari, where I actually work occasionally, and there's another one called the Glass House Record Store, which they're related. The Glass House is out in Pomona, which is east, like in the Inland Empire, which is the area where I grew up. But there's a lot of great record stores. You know, there's Amoeba Records, which is the one that everybody goes to in LA, the big giant one. But there's better record stores than Amoeba, quite honestly.
I've been to the one in San Francisco, but I haven't been to LA, so I haven't been to the LA one. But
yeah, I haven't been to the LA one. They moved locations during the pandemic, and it's still in Hollywood, but I haven't been to the new location. But I like going to kind of the smaller shops, the more, mom and pop kind of stores. There's a million bazillion. I'm almost afraid to even start listing them because I feel like I'm definitely going to forget one or two, and then I'm going to feel bad because there's so many good record stores in LA.
Yeah.
So I think I won't for now, but I will just say, just look up record shops in LA and go, there's like I said, there's so many good ones. That's where I find a lot of my non-French 45s. So a lot of the post-punk, 80s, goth, 60s soul, R&B. You can find a lot of that at the, like I said, there's a lot of great record stores around here where you can just go digging. And I try not to buy a lot of that stuff on Discogs because it's just more fun to like dig for that here. And I only have so much money, so you gotta do.
Well, yeah, that probably leads me on to another question in a minute, but yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So
I'm just going to pause you for a second. I just want to say thank you to Waxworks for the raid. They do their Tuesday night 12-inch record club stream, and thank you for the raid. Any new raiders, hit that follow button and welcome.
Yes, thank you. Welcome. And yeah, so. For French records, the 45s, it's either Discogs or at least pre-pandemic, I used to take trips to France and go, record shopping every time I went overseas. Also London, I did some really good record shopping in London in like 2016. I took a trip there, went to a lot of good record shops there. I have a whole list of record stores that I like in Paris and outside of Paris. There's a really, really cool shop in Bordeaux in France where you can find a lot of great of these, especially like 60s, 40s, it's all 45s. It's one of those where like the guy is there like generally from like about 2 p.m. to 6 p.m., but you might want to double check first because sometimes he's not there. But when he's there, it's great. Record fairs. We have the college radio station where I started, KSPC, for a very long time has done a record expo and has been doing it since I started. So for, years and years. There's also the Orange County Record Expo here. And then I actually randomly stumbled across one when I have family friends in Belgium. So I go over there a bit. And when I was in Belgium in this very tiny, small town in the south of Belgium, they had a record fair, and there were so many good 45s there, all this French stuff, because this is the French-speaking area of Belgium, so all of these great French 45s I almost went. If it hadn't been cash only, I probably would have actually gone broke, but I, only had so many euros to spend. But yeah, so that record fairs, record stores, but for the French stuff, it's mostly Discogs or overseas travel.
Yeah, we had Fraulein Freakbeat a few weeks ago, and she was talking about the massive one out in Utrecht, the massive record fair. And one of the things also we had Chris Wheatley, and he was talking about a lot of the European 45s. They always have great picture sleeves, as 45 Finch mentions, and obviously you've already shown some great picture sleeves already. So yeah, I mean, I guess going right to the source, like you say, going to France, going to Belgium is the obvious place to go and buy these records. It's great that you can, and like you say, it becomes a lot more expensive probably on Discogs to try and source these records. But Discogs can be a good way of sort of finding things. I ended up Jawa Jones played a cover of All Along the Watchtower a few weeks ago on a stream, and that chap who was selling them was in France, and then I was just looking through and I was like, okay, that sounds interesting, and then I just picked up a couple of bits and I was like, there's stuff that I wouldn't get from a record shop here. So it has got its pros, but it's also got its cons. But yeah, I think definitely going to record fairs and going to a record shop is much better, and obviously digging in the wild, you just never know what you're going to find.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Great. Let's move on to number 6 then. What have you got for number 6?
Sure. So speaking of great cover art, this is a perfect time for me to show you this one.
Let me solo you so you can show that.
The protector here so I can show you without the glare. So this is a Spanish cover.
Oh, wow.
Los Salvajes of the song Judy in Disguise, called Judy con Disfraz. And the cover art on this is absolutely amazing. It's this really perfect 60s psychedelic, beautiful cover. And so one of the things that I collect, not as extensively as French music, but also I like to collect music of other languages. So particularly Spanish, Italian, a little bit of German, a lot of the beat stuff from the 60s in various languages, not just French. It's really fun to kind of expand my horizons that way. But Spanish garage rock from the 60s is one that I really have enjoyed, kind of collecting over the years. But yeah, this cover is just so good.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So this is Los Salvajes with Judy con Disfraz, a cover of the song Judy in Disguise.
Okay.
Judy con disfraz a bailar llegó. Cuando la vi, ella sonrió. Mis ojos vieron todo el amor en Judy, su disfraz. Me gusta. A su lado yo corrí, la invité. Noche feliz, que me enamoré. Mi corazón desde que la vi tiene una ilusión. La quiero, la quisiera ver sin el antifaz, para que pudiera ver su bello rostro sin disfraz. Judy con disfraz a bailar llegó. Cuando la vi, ella sonrió. Mis ojos vieron todo el amor en Judy, su disfraz. Me gusta.
I was getting a lot of love in the chat, and yeah, some interesting comments. I think yeah, Nick's Sunday Cinema. I think that's very true. It is like hanging in a record store with friends, but without the judgment and smugness. I guess it depends what record shop you go to. I think I found here that there's the record shops you go to where the owner or whoever works there is brilliant, and they want to share the music with you, and then you get the other ones who are a bit miserable, who don't really want to do anything. They're just like, oh, yeah, just get on with it, sort of thing. But it's one of the reasons I love the show, because obviously I sort of set the bars at seven records, which, like you say, is very difficult. But it makes people really focus and think, okay, what can I play in 7 records, and what can I share? And it's great. And another great one.
Thank you.
And something that Nick's Cinema Seance also said, it's like the new college radio. Twitch. I know you don't stream a huge amount on Twitch, but you have done. But it's certainly one of the reasons I like Twitch, because I feel I can play whatever I want, and obviously if you hear one of my sets, it does sort of go all over the place. And it's getting a little weirder. I don't know. Do you know Don Champ Sound? Have you heard of Don Champ Sound at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So he does Slow Mo Mondays. And I think he got inspired by, I think, DJ Scratch or someone else, playing 45s at the wrong speed, playing 45s at 33. It's like a really slow. So we're going niche, playing 45s, to even more niche, playing them 33s. And then we did 45 Raiders that I was telling you about earlier. We did a 33 special with Sam Tweaks, myself. It was Don Champ Sound and Fat Wax 45. And then it happened to be 33 day, because 45 day I do on the 4th of May, 4-5 is the way that we do it in the UK. So 33 days, 3rd of March. So we did that, and we did 33 minutes of 45s at the wrong speed. But that's pretty weird. And again, I don't know many places that you'd get away with that and actually have people sort of coming to listen, which is why, streaming and Twitch and the internet is brilliant, because it just allows you to be as experimental as you like, and going from there. But right, let's move on to something perhaps a bit more serious. I don't know. I don't know what your experience is, but we had Jawa Jones on the show a little while ago, and she was telling about her experience as a female DJ in quite a male predominating industry, and she talked about her experiences and how she found things. So as a female, as a woman DJ, how have you found it? Has there been any issues? Has it been plain sailing, or is there issues that you had to deal with?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's always issues when you're a minority in any situation. I've been a female DJ. I've also been my first job was doing computer tech support. So I was also a female in a male dominated field, starting out in that way. I used to do one of my, jobs in college. I would do like live sound for, productions and stuff at the radio station, as well as just on the campuses in general. Again, a very male dominated field where people don't expect a woman to be coming and, plugging stuff in, or, running a soundboard, or dealing with kind of, big equipment and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, but I guess that's one thing that I'm very grateful for in LA is there's a great community of female DJs in LA. There's a lot of women doing vinyl DJing here right now. A lot of very, very experienced, very good DJs, and people who are up and coming that I think we all welcome. And there's not, I personally never. Oh, sorry, my dog with her squeaky toy is interrupting.
You're in the serious section.
So yeah, I mean, it's important to me that I want to be welcoming to female DJs, to people who are both who are first starting out, or who have done it for a long time but just need a new space. I think that we all grow and we support each other. So for example, I DJ'd in Seattle last summer with a very good friend of mine, DJ Emmanuel, who does this great night in Seattle called Am I Normal? and we DJ'd at the Revolver Bar in Seattle, which is also one of those bars that's sort of inspired by the Japanese vinyl bars. Really, really great venue in Seattle in the Capitol Hill neighborhood. And we had another DJ come out with us who was just starting, and when we were putting together the night, DJ Emmanuel, who's hosting, asked me, do you want to put another person on the bill to kind of open up? And, who would you think? And she said, I know that there's a lot of people that we both know up here, but I would really like to have somebody that maybe has never DJ'd before or is trying to get into it. And I said, absolutely. Yeah. That's, and we did, and it was great. And that's, I think that in LA, you see a lot of that too. And it's awesome. And so it's kind of mitigated, I think, what's difficult about being a female DJ. That being said, there are always issues, I all the time get, even in places where I DJ all the time, just random people coming up and trying to, mansplain like, oh, you're, you see here on the mixer, this is how you turn up the high end. And I'm like, I know, because I've been doing this you can tell me that like, it's, the mix is off or whatever, which is fine because DJs do that for each other all the time, but you don't have to come and like explain to me how knobs work. Like you could just say like, oh, can you turn up the bass? Like, yes, that's fine. And that, that kind of thing happens a lot. But I think, for the most part, I've been able to avoid the really, bad part. I try to make our nights, especially like Decadence Soirée, which is a real, nightclub and all that stuff, make sure that it's a safe space for women, and for people who are, non-binary or queer or trans. I think it's important that you kind of keep an eye on that in your spaces so you don't have it devolve into this, kind of like bro-y, dangerous culture. I see some of that a little bit, and sometimes you go to these like garage rock, like rock and roll 45s, like there's where people are coming at it from a, I guess, sort of a testosterone heavy perspective, like, or like punk and like but it's a little bit exclusionary, and so we try and kind of offer a counterpoint to that. But I luckily have never had a situation where I've been dropped off a bill or had some kind of consequence that happened, like being a woman. I think like I said, the nice part about having this record collecting community here and being a part of that is people just judge you for your record collection and not your gender identity, which is nice.
Yeah. and I guess a lot of the music that you're playing hopefully excludes the people who would be the difficulties, like you say, that the bros or the people who just come out and want to get drunk and just sort of hit on women all the time or whatever. I guess they're not going to come out and listen to French pop or French covers or whatever. They're going to go, like you say, to different areas and different clubs. So that maybe helps create the safe space as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think also it's just that when you show up with this huge box of 45s that are a bunch of stuff that these men haven't heard of, they're not going to mess with you in the same way, which isn't to say that it's, on you to do that. Like it's on them to not be creeps. But I think I've just, because of the way I approach DJing, I've been lucky to kind of avoid some of that, because I come in as somebody who's sort of like got this collection of records or this reputation where, like, for example, like people don't try and flirt with me too much, which I'm very much okay with, because I think, I just kind of like, I would rather take that persona of the, the professor or the, the person that's kind of like very just more interested in the music. But again, that's not on women to do. And if somebody wants to dress up or, do something a little bit different and have a different vibe, then it's up to men to not be creepy about it. But it has, I think I've lucked out in a lot of ways in sort of avoiding the really bad parts of it. Not always, but for the most part. And, when you're the DJ and you're running the night, like, you're not usually the person that's going to get messed with as much, at least by, random people.
Hopefully not. But like you say, obviously there's a lot of stories, and I think Joe was saying similar to what you said. For example, this is how you turn the knob. I think some of her experience was people even coming and sort of trying to take the needle off, or trying to take the records off and things like that. And you just like, it's just not acceptable at all.
Coming up and trying to touch my records is
don't touch the records. Yeah, exactly.
Like, do not touch. You know how much money and time I spend on these things because your grubby hands off of them.
Exactly, and it's keep your drinks away as well. No drinks anywhere near the DJ booth or anywhere near these records.
Dancing and flailing about, and like knocking into your turntables. It's like I'm not nice about that stuff. Some people I think are more gracious. I give people the stare, and I'm not very very nice to people who do that sort of thing.
No, exactly. Okay, yeah. Thank you for that, and thank you for letting us know how how things have affected you and your experiences. We're going to do a couple more after this, but what have you got for number 7?
Sure. So for number 7, let's see. Oh gosh, now it's getting to the point where I'm like, no, I want to do. No, wait, what about that one and this one? And oh no, now we're getting.
We'll do number 7, and then maybe 2 more after that.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let's start with a British artist. I have 2 records by her. Maybe I'll let you choose.
Okay.
I have
interactive. This is what Twitch is all about. Let's be interactive.
Yeah. This is it. So I have 245s by Twinkle, who's a very famous.
Let me hold on a second. Let me get you on
female singer.
Okay.
So we have this side is her cover of Franz Gall's Poupée de cire, Poupée de son, called Lonely Singing Doll. And over here, we have, this one's from the 80s, actually. So this one's from the 60s. This one is an 1982 version of I'm a Believer. So
I'm going to go with the 80s one, I think.
Okay.
Let's do that, because I'm a Believer by the Monkees.
Yes,
the
Monkees.
Cover of the Monkees. Yeah. Let's hear that. That'd be
I think
interesting.
it's actually written. It says originally credited to Neil Diamond, so he may have written the original. But let's see.
I thought love was only true in fairy tales, meant for someone else, but not for me. Love was out to get me, that's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Then I saw his face. Saw his face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave him if I tried.
That's a great cover. The thing is, unless I hear the other one, I won't know if I made a good choice or not. So we may have to get you to play the other one as well.
They're very different. That one's very 80s. The other one is much more 60s. I can play you just a second of it.
Yeah, let's do the 60s as well. I mean, that was great. I mean, that's I love the original, and that's a great cover.
Okay, my dog's trying to join in with her squeaky toy. She wants you to hear her music. Okay, here we go. This is Twinkle covering Franz Gall, Poupée de cire, Poupée de son. This one is called A Lonely Singing Doll.
I knew that I could go far. But now my life cannot be the same since I became a singing star. Always first with every style, I seem to have it all. But underneath this happy smile, I'm just a lonely singing doll. I am just like other girls, I want to find a boy to love. But I never get the chance to find the boy I'm dreaming of. Any party I go to, people stand and stare. Boys only look, never speak to me. It's just as if they didn't dare. So each night I stay at home.
Oh, they're both good though. I don't think I could decide
No,
between them. They're both really good, and it's the same artist, obviously.
yes.
Maybe not quite 20 years apart, but maybe is the that must be sort of late 60s.
That was actually from 1965, so it was almost
Okay.
years apart, and the other one is from 1982.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, two great covers. Um, okay, we've sort of talked about Decadence. We've spoken a little bit about Rouge Rouge. You DJ'd, I think, the other week at a Cramps night.
Yeah, so so at Footsie's Bar where we do Rouge Rouge in LA, our bartender whose name is Erica, who's makes the night awesome and is always kind of like behind the bar pouring drinks and supporting us and everything. And it was her birthday a few weeks ago, and so for her birthday, Footsie's put on a Cramps themed night where they had a Cramps cover band play, and then myself and DJ Annalisa, who I do Rouge Rouge with, as well as another great LA female DJ in LA who's been at it for a long time named DJ Short Shorts. The three of us DJ'd our, all vinyl sets and played, a lot of like rock and roll and punk rock and stuff, not all Cramps songs, although I think you probably could put together like 4 hours of the Cramps and it would be a pretty good night. But since they had the band playing, we didn't play a ton of other Cramps songs, but just played, the songs that kind of go with the Cramps. A lot of, early to mid 80s, punk rock or post-punk, darker, kind of gothy stuff. And it was really, really fun. That was a one-off event, but I love doing those too. You mentioned before, actually, I think somebody in the chat mentioned that Twitch is a little bit like college radio, and then you expand on it by saying, it can get very niche. Like, for example, a night where people only play 45s at 33 RPM, which is exactly like the type of thing you would hear on college radio. Like my college radio station, KSPC, has a video game music show that only plays music from video games.
Wow, that sounds good.
A lot of like very niche things that are even more niche than what I do, which is, pretty specific. And I just love that. And so like if somebody invites me to do, a Cramps night or a Nick Cave night or a this or that, like I'm for it. Like, please, like, and the more challenging, the better. I love that. So that's what that was. I also have a night at Bar Henry, LA, which is another bar kind of near Dodger Stadium. It's one of those, again, that's very similar to these like Japanese bars. Very, very great cocktails, a really good, sort of refined vibe, but a really fun place with a great, turntable setup and sound system. And my friend Mark, who founded Decadence Soirée, he started this night there called Damaged Goods, which is all 80s and post-punk stuff. And he and I do that together. And the next one is coming up this Thursday. So if you're in the LA area, drop by Bar Henry Thursday. And then we do one, Mark and I as well do a night at this place called Melody Wine Bar, which is a great wine bar and restaurant. They have pop-up kitchens and they, beer, wine, cocktails, coffee. And we DJ there once a month. And that's just sort of an all format. I end up playing there a lot of like city pop and, lounge and different, kind of just all kinds of different genres that I don't get to play elsewhere. Some 80s like boogie and funk and stuff like that, like similar to what I played on the stream that one time. And yeah, that's where I get to bring my weirdo records that don't really fit into any, because any of the other like more specific nights, because that one's just sort of anything goes, which is great too. As much as I love an ultra niche night, I also love a completely open format night.
Oh
So
yeah, it's
that
great.
night at Melody Lounge, which is again was the owner of that bar, who was great and who's a DJ himself. When he built that restaurant, he built specifically a DJ booth space that was, as a DJ, he designed it for DJs, and so it's
Yeah.
it's just really awesome to be in a space like that where somebody was thinking of you when they when they put it to you. The DJ is not an afterthought; they're kind of the focus of the thing. So that is
Yeah, it's important, isn't it? A couple of things that you said. So you mentioned video game things. ZZ and I got asked to be guests on Sean the Vinyl Villain's show, Digging in the Crates. And at the beginning, he showed off a record, which was this Mario, if I can get it out, this Mario record. I don't know if you can see it, maybe the glare.
Oh yeah, there I can see it for
And
sure.
it's so it's got like the sort of design of the old Nintendo
Oh yeah.
cover, but it's also, you won't be able to get it on the screen because of the lighting, but it's also a Zoetrope record.
Oh
So
yeah, I
obviously,
see it. I see
as
it.
it goes
Wow.
round, obviously it does that, and then obviously you've got Duck Hunt on the other side, the classic game.
I was such a Nintendo kid. I had that classic Nintendo in the 80s and I played so much Super
Yeah,
Mario and just, oh my gosh. So that
it's so good. I mean,
classic Nintendo for sure.
I've played some other stuff, but I'm still Nintendo. Still got like a Switch, and that's what, if I'm going to play video games, it's definitely Nintendo.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, we're talking about 33s and talking about 80s. I was on this show. I was playing Madonna, Into the Groove, at 33, and someone came into the chat, and obviously I don't think they knew what we were doing. They just sort of randomly came in, and they're like, "Oh, that's a brilliant cover. Who does this?" And I was like, "It's Madonna, but just a 33." And apparently, her female vocals sound amazing. So yeah, next time you're doing an 80s night, take some Madonna. Give it a go on 33, probably +2 or +3, but give it a go and see what you think, and see if you get any interesting comments.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I would love to. I'm going to try that as soon as maybe we could. I was going through my 45s and I ran across a couple Madonna 45s that I had in my box, and I was like,
Yeah. It's it doubles up your collection.
yeah,
not all of them work at 33, but certainly some of them. And Don Champsan was telling me a lot of cumbia music. There's I can't remember the word. There's a special word with them for sort of slowed down cumbia. Again at 33. So yes, it's interesting the rhythms that sort of come out of it. But anyway, back to you. What have you got next as a bonus track? We'll
sure.
do two bonus tracks. So what have you got next?
Okay, I've got a great bonus track to start. By the way, I have a Switch too, and that's my only console, and I still like to play it. So if anybody wants to be either Twitch friends or Switch friends, hit me up.
Sadly, I went to use it the other day because there's a new Mario Kart, there's a new expansion pack come out, and I was like, oh brilliant, I'll go and switch it on. And I think because it's been left for a little while, while I've been busy on Twitch, the battery's just gone, so I need to replace it. But yeah, once we're set up, I'll find your username on there.
Yeah, I think I'm also Fifi La Roux on that one.
Yeah.
So this next one that I have, this bonus one, is another find from Record Safari. So one that I actually like dug in and found in the 45 bins, and it is another 80s track as well. It's the Fine Young Cannibals, if you remember them.
Yeah, I love Fine Young Cannibals. Brilliant. Which one is it?
It's a cover of the Buzzcocks' "Ever Fallen in Love," and it's from the cover. It's actually from a movie called Something Wild, which was a movie starring Melanie Griffith and Jeff Daniels. It's this great 80s movie. If you haven't seen it, you definitely should see it. And if you're in LA, you should rent it from Videotheque, which is the video store that my friend Mark, who founded Decadent Soiree, he also owns a video shop in LA specializing in foreign and hard to find films. So if you're
are they on VHS or are they on DVD?
Both actually. They have all formats: Blu-rays, DVDs, region
Okay.
free. So if you foreign films, they have a huge, and then they sell records too. So that's a great place to look for, especially because he has such an interest in French music. You can find a lot of times French records, as well as they sell movies as well as rent them. So I had rented this movie. Actually, Mark recommended it to me a long time ago at Videotheque, and then when I saw this in the bins at Record Safari, I was like, oh shit, I know that movie. And then I was like, oh, like the Fine Young Cannibals covering the Buzzcocks. Well, let's just see about that. And then because I didn't remember, I had watched the movie so long ago, I didn't remember it from the movie.
Yeah, I don't, I can't think I've ever heard this. I've heard
Oh,
some of
it's
it. I
so
used to be
good.
quite a big fan, but it's not one I've heard of before. So
It's another one that I've played at places and people are like, "What is this?" Like
yeah,
Fine Young Cannibals covering the Buzzcocks, like as one does. Two bands that totally go together. So yeah, so that's what this is. It's Ever Fallen in Love, cover by the Fine Young Cannibals.
great.
You swear my natural emotion. You make me feel like that, and I'm high. And if I cause a commotion, I'll only end up losing you, and that's worse. Ever falling in love with someone? Ever falling in love with someone? Ever falling in love with someone you shouldn't have fallen in love with? I can't see much of a future unless we find out now just what's to blame.
I think now I remember hearing that now actually, and I do remember hearing that. It's yeah, no, I mean Fine Young Cannibals produced some amazing music. They and then they must have been around for a little while, but I don't know. I don't remember that they went on and did much after. I'll be corrected if I'm wrong, but I don't remember much after that. But yeah, they were a great '80s band, and fantastic. That's great. Okay, well, I think we're almost there. We'll do one more. But you've done a little bit of streaming. How did you find streaming on Twitch, and is it something you think you'll be doing more of, or will you be doing, for example, Mixcloud or any other sort of platforms streaming?
Yeah, so I do. I have a Mixcloud. So you can find me on Mixcloud at DJ Fifi La Roux. We also have one for Rouge Rouge. It's at Rouge Rouge LA. And then there's one for Decadence Soirée. That's Decadence Soirée. It's Deca, DECA, and then Dance, DANSE, and then Soirée. So I have gotten into Mixcloud. And there's so many great people doing great mixes there on Mixcloud. Shout out to DJ Jawa Jones, who you
Yeah,
mentioned before in her Juanita music show, which is that's one of my favorite Mixcloud stations that I listen to all the time. But there's just so many people doing cool stuff there. So I do like Mixcloud quite a bit. I haven't uploaded as many things as I want to on there just because for a while the radio station was a little finicky about what we could archive, and there's rules and
right.
copyright laws
Yeah,
here that are just sort of bizarre. So but now we are able to archive things a little bit more, and so that's kind of opening up. So because it's like I record 1 to 2 2-hour radio shows a week every week, so to then also record Mixclouds and do that kind of stuff is like a lot of recording.
yeah. It takes a lot of time, doesn't it? And it's the preparation as well.
Right, and then also, mix that in with now that things have reopened, like live, for example, like I'm DJing Thursday night this week and Sunday night, and I've got to put together
Yeah,
my radio show, and that's just a lot. So I wish I could do it more, but I do enjoy it. Twitch, I think like most people, I got introduced to Twitch during the pandemic when we couldn't
yeah,
go anywhere, and so that was again one of those things. It seemed like in the early pandemic, every DJ who had lost their DJ gigs was like going live on Twitch or on Instagram, and I was like,
yeah,
"Oh, I'm not going to do that. I have a radio show. I don't need to go live." There's too many people doing it. Who it's like it's too much. It's oversaturated.
yeah.
Um, But once I finally did it, I was like, oh no, this is fun.
Yeah, I could sense that you did quite enjoy it, didn't you? When you did the, I think the 45 Funksters was the first one you did, and then you did the 45 Queens for us, didn't you? I think those are
Yeah,
two.
that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
And then I've gone just on my own channel just a couple times, just for fun, at random hours of the day or night. And with another great DJ, DJ Dante Fontana, who helped me with all the technical stuff and also designed my logo that you see down there in the corner, is the person that kind of introduced me to Twitch and how all that works. So big thanks to him. But yeah, now Twitch is just like a channel that I have on my TV. So, if I'm going to pull up Netflix or whatever, I pull up Twitch and, who's on. I love watching, there's people that are on there every week and just, DJing, and I'll throw that on while I'm doing stuff. Or I also love watching people play video games, especially classic. I watched a guy in Australia play King's Quest 4 for like 4 hours until like 4 a.m. California time, and it was like the most fun I had during the pandemic.
I haven't quite got to. I think I switched it on, and obviously when you put Twitch on, it comes up with a channel, and there was a woman. It looked like she was playing a game where she was trying to rob a bank or something, and she was just talking about what she was going to do. She wasn't doing anything, but there's like 2,000 viewers watching it. I was like, what is going on? And she's got 260,000 followers, and you're just like, this is crazy. This is crazy.
Yeah.
And even some of the biggest DJs that we follow, that Jazzy Jeff, you're talking about 1,000 people, watching, and nowhere near that. So it'd be really interesting to see where it sort of goes from there. And it's nice seeing people like you who don't stream very much coming on, because it's still a bit of a novelty, and you can see how much fun it is doing it. Scotty Boy has just got on, and it's really nice to see him sort of doing a bit of streaming. And I said to him, it's quite addictive. Once you start, it is quite addictive. And he's like, no, it'll be fine. And then within the space of about a week, he was like, oh, I'm going to do another stream, and then we're going to do another one. But it's good. And we talked a bit about it last night on my other show with Immaculate about mental health and how it's helped a lot of people get through the pandemic. One, watching, and secondly, obviously being able to have a creative outlet, just to keep your sanity, really, just sort of keep you going, and the support and the online community. So yeah, it's been interesting.
Yeah, great. I've noticed there's a lot of DJs who've pivoted to Twitch and have gotten one great example is a great DJ in LA, another great woman DJ, DJ Victoria Rollins.
Yeah.
Somebody I DJ'd with in LA, pre-pandemic, we would DJ. Now she's got this huge Twitch following, and she's
massive.
Doing a lot of stuff on Twitch. She still DJs, live too, but her Twitch channel is amazing. That's one that I'll just throw on, when she's on, and she's done such a great job with it, and is so creative and just has really embraced that. And I just love seeing people, kind of take that to the next level and get in there. So,
and it's getting DJs to a completely different audience as well. And it's good that there is a spread of male and female DJs out there. There's certainly a lot, and it's something I've tried to do. I was going through the numbers for 45 Day. We're nowhere near sort of half male, half female, but it's slowly creeping up. But I try and get a mix of people coming on the shows as well. So because they play great music that I wouldn't have heard otherwise, because you're coming from a completely different perspective. And yeah, it's interesting. Twitch is interesting, and I'm not sure where it's going. I've got some ideas for what I'm going to do with it in the next year or so, but it'll be interesting to see where we go. It's interesting to see where we go forwards. Right, let's have your final 7 tonight.
Oh gosh, that's so hard to choose.
This is the hardest bit. What are you going to finish on?
Yeah, so this I think I have to finish. Even though there's so many, oh gosh, I need to maybe I'll just put together a mix with the rest of these and just throw that up.
Don't forget, I'm hoping you're going to do another 45 Day mix. The email went to spam to a lot of people. I hope you got the email. If not, let me know.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
you've got another month or so to put that together. Yeah. Actually, I'll speak to you about something else afterwards. After this, I'm going to make a note. Talk about the record. I'm going to make a note of something.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite cover songs of all time. This is Grace Jones covering Edith Piaf, La Vie en Rose. And it's such a
Ooh,
cool kind of
ooh.
mellow disco version of that song. She sings it in French, and it's just one
Grace
of my
Jones,
absolute
yeah.
favorites. What was that?
Yeah, I was saying Grace Jones, yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this, definitely.
Yeah, so this is her. This is from, I believe it's from, 1977, that she did this cover, and it's very disco-y, but mellow, and it's just one of my favorite cover songs. I have a extended 12-inch version that I play sometimes, but I have the 45 too, and it's cool to have both. This one's obviously a bit shorter, but it's still, whatever length or whatever version it is, it's always such a great song. So even though I have a big old stack of other ones that I wanted to play too, this one takes the prize, because I think it's a great song to end on.
Great, let's do it.
Des yeux qui font baisser les miens, un rire qui se perd sur sa bouche. Voilà le portrait sans retouche de l'homme auquel j'appartiens. Quand il me prend dans ses bras, il me parle tout bas, je vois la vie en rose. Il m'a dit des mots d'amour, des mots de tous les jours, et ça me fait quelque chose. Il est entre dans mon cœur une part de bonheur dont je connais le corps. C'est lui pour moi pour lui dans la vie. Il me l'a dit, là je reste pour la vie. Et dès que je l'aperçois, alors je sens en moi mon cœur qui bat.
That's an amazing cover, because it doesn't sound like her. If you hadn't said it was Grace Jones, you wouldn't automatically think it's her.
Right, it's a kind of gentle version of Grace Jones. She's
Yeah.
usually so tough and so kind of aggressive, and this is her kind of more laid back, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, she was amazing. She did this show. I can't remember how long ago. It must have been about, I think it's maybe about 8 years ago. That she was, I think, the second. We went to see Pulp in London's Wireless Festival, and then I think she was second on the bill. But yeah, it's crazy show, really good, really good. Brilliant. Well, I think we're there. I'm just going to set the raid, and then we'll sort of say goodbyes, and I'll hang around afterwards because there are a couple of things I need to talk to you about. But let me set the raid. Let me just check that's working. We're going to go and see. Has that worked or not? I'm not sure it is. Can anyone see if that raid is working? I'll type it in manually if it's not. What have I put wrong? Okay, let me sort that out. Why don't you tell us while I'm sorting that out? Tell us what you've got coming up in the next sort of week or two.
Sure. So my radio show, like I said, is every Saturday. So the next one will be this Saturday on KSPC. You can find it on kspc.org. And that's the French show called Le Show. I play 2 hours of musique française every Saturday evening, or weird o'clock Sunday morning in the UK or wherever you might be. And then not this Friday, but next Friday, because it's every other Friday, would be Atrocity Exhibition, which is my other radio show where I play goth, post-punk, and industrial music. And then coming up as far as live gigs, if you're in the LA area, this Thursday at Bar Henry in Los Angeles and Echo Park, we're doing Damaged Goods, which is our 80s post-punk new wave night. at Bar Henry LA. And then on Sunday evening is Rouge Rouge, our monthly all 45 night with myself and DJ Annalisa. And that is everything from 60s, 70s, and 80s, mostly soul, psych, punk, post-punk, yeah, everything in between. And that's always a fun night. And this Sunday it's actually earlier, so normally it's 10 to 2, which is your typical DJ shift here in LA, but we are doing the happy hour version this coming Sunday. So instead of 10 to 2, it'll be 5 to 9. So if you don't want to watch the Oscars, or you do but you want to do it on your phone at a bar, come by Footsie's Bar in Cypress Park. 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. is Rouge Rouge LA. And April 9th, Decadence Soirée with myself and DJ Pierrot. And that is at the Grand Star Jazz Club in Chinatown. And you can follow Decadence Soirée on Instagram as well. We have our own Instagram page for that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think we're about to rate out, but thank you so much. It's been an education, some amazing cover music, some amazing stories. And if anyone wants to watch back, it will be on YouTube very soon. And whilst you're there, give the YouTube channel a follow. But thank you so much for being my guest, and it's been brilliant.
Thank you for having me.
And we are out.